They laughed when Dad called me a failure, until I became their only hope. At 38, I thought I understood my place in the world. My identical twin brother Marcus had always been the golden child, while I was just average Thomas, the forgettable one. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the soul-crushing betrayal that would happen at what was supposed to be a celebration. What my family did to me that night was beyond devastating, but what I did in return. Well, let's just say karma has never tasted so intoxicatingly sweet. Growing up with Marcus was like living in someone else's shadow 24/7. We looked exactly the same, but our lives couldn't have been more different. Marcus was the star athlete, the straightest student, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Me? I was just there, existing in the background, getting decent grades, playing decent sports, being decent at everything but exceptional at nothing. My parents never even tried to hide their favoritism. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became the soundtrack of my childhood, playing at least twice a week like a broken record. I got married young at 26 to my college sweetheart Rebecca. We had this cute little suburban life, nothing fancy but comfortable. A modest house with a white picket fence, two cars that actually ran, weekend barbecues with neighbors who knew our names. But as the years went by, we just grew apart. No dramatic fights, no cheating scandals, just two people who wanted completely different futures. The divorce was finalized 8 months ago, and honestly, I thought I was handling it pretty well. Meanwhile, Marcus had been dating this woman Sophia for about 4 years. She's one of those people who seems perfect on paper, you know? Beautiful, successful marketing executive, drives a Honda Accord, shops at Target, but somehow makes it look designer. My parents absolutely worshiped the ground she walked on. Mom would literally light up whenever Sophia entered a room, and Dad would go on these long speeches about how Marcus had found the one. It was like watching a live-action fairy tale, except I wasn't invited to the ball. So when Mom sent a text to our family group chat about a special dinner at their house last month, something in my gut told me not to go. I honestly wish I had listened to that instinct, but you know how it is with family. You keep showing up, hoping against hope that maybe this time will be different, that maybe they'll finally see you as more than just a disappointment. I arrived about 20 minutes late because traffic was absolutely insane downtown. Everyone was already there when I walked in. My parents, Marcus, and Sophia, my older sister Catherine with her husband and their 3 kids, plus a couple of aunts and uncles I only see at major holidays. I grabbed a Corona from the kitchen and tried to do what I always do at these family gatherings, blend into the background and hope nobody notices me long enough to make some cutting comment about my life choices. About halfway through dinner, while we're all eating Mom's famous pot roast and pretending everything is normal, Marcus suddenly stood up and started tapping his fork against his wine glass. The entire room went dead silent, like someone had pressed a mute button on reality. That's when he announced that he and Sophia were engaged. The whole table just erupted. Everyone was cheering, hugging, crying happy tears. And you know what? For about 30 seconds, I was genuinely happy for him. Despite everything, despite years of being compared to him and coming up short, he's still my twin brother. I actually felt this warm feeling in my chest, thinking maybe this could be a fresh start for our family. That's when my entire world got obliterated beyond recognition. My dad, who had clearly been hitting the beer pretty hard, stood up with this massive grin plastered across his face. He raised his bottle high in the air and literally shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "Finally." One son who isn't a complete and utter disappointment. Unlike this pathetic excuse sitting right here who can't even keep a wife. He was pointing directly at me, his finger like a weapon aimed straight at my heart. I felt every molecule in my body freeze. Time stopped. The room went silent for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for me to hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Then my mother, my own mother who gave birth to me, who used to kiss my scraped knees and tell me I was special, chimed in with the most soul-destroying words I've ever heard. We should have selected just one embryo when we had the chance. We knew which one would turn out to be the complete failure. And then something happened that will haunt me for the rest of my life. Everyone laughed. Not that uncomfortable, awkward laughter you hear when someone makes a bad joke. No, this was genuine amusement. My 12-year-old niece Emma was literally pointing at me and giggling like I was some kind of circus act. Marcus's future in-laws, people I had just met 2 hours earlier, were smirking and nodding like they completely agreed. My sister was covering her mouth, trying to hide her smile but failing miserably. And Marcus? Marcus just stood there with this satisfied, smug expression that said, "Better you than me, loser." I sat there, completely paralyzed, as the laughter continued and people started making additional comments about how at least one twin had turned out right, how maybe there was hope for the family name after all, how funny it was that identical twins could be so different. Each word was like a knife being twisted deeper into my chest. I counted exactly 17 seconds in my head while this verbal assault continued, 17 seconds that felt like 17 years. Then something inside me just clicked. Not broke, clicked. Like a switch being flipped to a position it had never been in before. I looked around at these people, these family members who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and I saw them clearly for the first time in my entire life. I smiled. Not a happy smile, not even a bitter smile. The kind of smile you give when you finally understand a truth that's been hidden from you your whole life. I stood up calmly, reached into my wallet, and placed $65 on the table for my share of dinner. I looked each person in the eye for exactly 2 seconds, committing their faces to memory, then turned and walked out without saying a single word. No dramatic speech, no tears, no slamming doors. I just left. Before I even reached my car, my phone started buzzing like crazy. Text after text after text. Mom saying, "Don't be so sensitive, it was just a joke." Dad telling me to man up and come back inside. Marcus writing, "Bro, chill out, it wasn't that serious." Catherine complaining that I was ruining Marcus's moment again. The absolute flood of messages was overwhelming, but as I sat in my Toyota Camry reading them in the parking lot, something remarkable happened. That switch that had flipped inside stayed flipped. I blocked every single family member on my phone and all social media that night. Changed my email address too. The only person I didn't block was my cousin Vanessa, who wasn't at the dinner and has always been the one decent person in our family. That was 9 weeks ago today. These past 9 weeks have been the most weirdly peaceful of my entire adult life. I never realized how much mental energy I was spending just dreading family interactions or recovering from them afterward. My therapist, who I started seeing after my divorce, says I've made more genuine progress in the last 2 months than in the previous 8 months combined. It's like I've been holding my breath for 38 years and finally learned how to exhale. About 3 weeks after I went completely no contact, according to Vanessa, my family spent the first couple of weeks assuming I was just being dramatic and would come crawling back like I always did. But when week 3 rolled around and I still hadn't responded to any calls, texts, or emails, they started to realize I was dead serious about cutting contact. And here's where this story gets absolutely delicious. Through Vanessa, I've been learning that Marcus's perfect little life has been crumbling like a house of cards in a hurricane. That big promotion he was bragging about for months fell through completely when his company downsized. Those Instagram posts of their beautiful suburban home, they're actually drowning in mortgage debt and credit card bills. A lavish engagement party they were planning, postponed indefinitely for financial reasons. Meanwhile, I've been focusing on myself for the first time in decades. I joined a gym and actually started going regularly. I reconnected with old college friends who my family always said were beneath me, but who turned out to be incredible, supportive people. I started that online business I'd been putting off for years, selling custom woodworking pieces. Nothing massive, just something I'm passionate about. Last week, I made my first $2,000 in profit. But the real bombshell dropped yesterday when Vanessa called with news that made my jaw hit the floor. My parents have been asking about me nonstop, getting increasingly desperate to reach me. Not because they miss me or feel guilty about what they said, but because they need something from me. Something big. Vanessa wouldn't tell me exactly what yet, but she did say that my father's small accounting business is in serious financial trouble. His biggest client dropped him last month, taking about 60% of his income with them. My mother's shopping addiction has finally caught up with them, and they're facing some serious credit card debt. And the cherry on top of this disaster Sunday, Marcus isn't just struggling financially. He's also been caught doing some questionable things with company resources at his job. Nothing criminal, but enough to get him demoted and put on thin ice. So the golden child, the perfect son, the one who could do no wrong, can't save them. And now they need the complete disappointment, the pathetic excuse, the twin they wish had never been born. As I sit here in my modest apartment with its slightly leaky bathroom faucet and that one kitchen cabinet that doesn't quite close right, I'm feeling something I've never felt before in my entire life. Power. Not the kind of power that comes from money or status, but the power that comes from finally understanding your own worth. The power that comes from realizing you don't owe anyone your presence, your help, or your forgiveness just because you share DNA. Tomorrow, Vanessa is going to tell me exactly what my family needs from me. And for the first time in my life, I'm going to be the one deciding whether they deserve it. The disappointment twin is about to become the decision maker, and honestly, I'm absolutely thriving in this role. Have you ever had a moment where you realized that the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally actually saw you as disposable? It's simultaneously the most devastating and the most liberating feeling in the world. What happened next changed everything, and I mean everything, about how I see family, loyalty, and the true meaning of self-respect. But that's just the beginning of this story. What my family did when they realized I held all the cards. That's when things got really interesting, and what I decided to do with that power. Well, let's just say justice has never tasted quite this sweet.